opportunity He's given us to congregate ourselves together one with another, realizing that God has truly been good to us. We have spared our life and have allowed our golden moment to roll on a little while longer. And we thank God for just being God. For God is God all by himself. Certainly we thank God for Jesus, who paid a debt that he did not owe. Because we owed a debt that we could not pay. We thank God for the Holy Spirit that he's given to us to guide us, to keep us, and to comfort us. Each and every one of you, his children, we thank God for you. Good to see Brother Smith, Brother Miller, co-labor in the gospel today. If you're visiting with us today, we want you to know that you are our honored guest. That your presence is an enhancement to this worship setting. I'd like to recognize, before I get started, Minister Alvin Walker. Amen. Good to see him in the house. Also, good to see Sister Paul here. Amen. Always like to recognize Toya visiting here from Houston. And the reason why I like to recognize her is because whenever I'm in Houston, her and Nick always see about it. I could be at another church, it don't matter. They're gonna call and make sure I have adequate place to stay. They're gonna make sure that I have food, make sure that everything is taken care of. Because some churches you can't take for granted that when the church calls you to come preach, then they're gonna accommodate it. Amen. So I just appreciate that as I travel throughout different places, there are members who have groups here in Arkansas that always reach out to me and see about me. I thank God for that. Good to see you. I feel like I see Tina walking back there. Good to see that. If you just for a few minutes, I thought about on this morning preaching a Father's Day sermon. I started to throw you a loop there because most of the time on Father's Day you don't show up. So I figured I would preach a Father's Day sermon, Ernest, this morning. Amen. And amen. And just let that be. But God changed my heart. And it changed my heart. And I'm going to do something on mothers. If you have your Bible, turn with me to the book of Exodus. You know, every year, doing Mother's Day sermon every year for some 30 years, 30-something years, it's hard to find something to preach. When you got a whole Bible, you have no excuse. Exodus chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. Exodus chapter 2, 1 through 10. Okay. If you have it, say amen. Amen. There was a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him for 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrush, and dabbed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flag by the river brink. And his sister stood afar off and looked and see what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. And her maiden walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flag, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrew children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away, nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter. And he became her son, and she called his name Moses. And she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." In these scriptures we find the birth of Moses, the great deliverance of God's people. Moses' mother, not willing that he should be killed, devised a plan to save his life. On this Mother's Day, we're going to talk about desperate time calls for desperate measures. Desperate time calls for desperate measures. As we look at Moses' mother, a woman of faith, we're going to look at her faith in the past, the present, and the reward of the future. Mother's Day sermons are not really as easy to preach as some folks would think it is. Because you have to consider that for some, motherhood haven't been all that it's supposed to have cut out to be. For some, motherhood is unexpected. And for some, it's not always welcome. For some, because of physical reason, motherhood is impossible. For some, mothers wasn't all that nice to them. And for some, motherhood have brought to them many heartaches and pain and difficulty. For some, motherhood was just a complete failure. And for the children, some do not have a loving mother, some do not even know their mother. Some lost their mother because of tragedy. But in spite of all of the negative things that I just mentioned, there's a positive side of motherhood. Someone has quoted, and I quote, "To become a mother is not so difficult. But on the other hand, being a mother is very difficult." And so you said, "Well, preacher, with all of the negative that you mentioned, why even bother to preach about mother today?" So I tell you why. Because out of all of the difficulties, out of all of the stumbling block, the pitfall, the broken dream, the heartaches, the failure, we're here this morning to talk about the most beautiful part of God's plan when it comes down to the family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When we look at motherhood, it's a part of God's plan. It's a part of the thing that God has divinely created to be a part of his plan. It's a gift of love, a gift of caring. It's something that we all must work hard to keep to the level that God has put it. If I would ask a question this morning, who was one of the most person who influenced you in your life, who was probably the most important person that influenced your life? Many of us would say mothers. Out of all of the teachers that we had, out of all of our friends, out of all of our relatives, and out of all of our other associations, most of the time it's mothers who influence us the most. As we look back over our life from time to time, as we see things happen in our life, we thought and think about what mothers taught us, what mama said. we think about how mama felt about certain things. And so on this Mother's Day, we all pause to thank God for mothers. And not only do we thank God for mothers, but we thank God for those who stood in the place of mothers. Whether it be Sunday school teachers who teaches your child on Sunday morning. Whether it be teachers, whether it be just someone who adopted your child, adopted you as a child.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We thank God for all mothers.
Yes, sir.
One lady, story told, sort of humorous, of a woman who had three children, 3 boys, and they were very, very bad.
All right, come on now.
And she had a hard time controlling them. And one person asked her, they said, if you could do it all over again, would you still have children? She quickly answered yes, but she wouldn't have the same 3. I want to tell you, motherhood is very, very important. I know some of you just think and say, if I could do it all over again. Amen. This morning, right quickly, as we look at Moses' mother, as we look at her faith, we want to consider her as a woman who trusted God, even in a difficult situation. For as we remember the children of Israel, they ended up in Egypt land because of Joseph.
All right.
You remember Joseph was sold by his hateful brother, his jealous brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And Joseph ended up in Egypt land, and there in Egypt land, through a series of incidents, he ended up in the palace. And he ended up as prime minister of Egypt. You remember, while Joseph was there, his family was brought there and stayed there in Goshen, and they had it made.
All right.
But by the time you get to Exodus,
All right.
Joseph dies.
All right.
The Bible says in Exodus 1 and verse 8 that there arose another king over Egypt
All right.
who did not know Joseph. And because of politics and because of the Hebrew growing and populating as fast as they was populating,
My Lord.
the Hebrew, God was blessing them. And so the Egyptian king decided we better do something to slow the population growth down, because if we don't slow the population growth down, the Hebrew is going to outnumber us, and one day they're going to overtake us.
Come on now, preacher.
And they're going to be our king, they're going to be our rulers, and we're going to be their slaves.
All right.
So they came up with a plan. The king said, what we're going to do is we're going to kill all the males born.
All right.
That is born.
All right. Come on down.
Told the maids that the midwife that when the baby is born, if it be a girl, you can keep it. But if it's a boy, kill it. But the midwife, fearing God, did not obey the king.
All right.
So the king issued another order. And that is that all babies born be thrown in the Nile River. Let alligators, crocodiles eat them up. Moses' mother defiled the king's order because she did not want to see her child destroyed. She did not want to see her child doomed. She did not want to see her child dead. So she out of a desperate situation, because desperate time demand desperate measure. She hid Moses for 3 months. And can you imagine during this time where the issue was ordered to kill all male boys, she being pregnant and then conceiving, having Moses.
All right.
She hid him for 3 months, the Bible says, until she could no longer hide him.
All right.
Can you imagine the many times, the many nights, the many days when that God would be walking close by? And she tried to keep Moses quiet. Because if that soldier would hear him and find him, he would be thrown in the Nile River. She hid him in the house for 3 months. And the record says when she could no longer keep him hid,
All right, come on down.
she came up with a plan. She said, what I'm going to do, because I don't want my child destroyed.
Yeah.
Mothers love her child. A mother will always love her child, and no mother wants to see her child destroyed. She said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make me a basket. And she made a basket, and she dipped it with slime. She sealed it within and without. She sealed it with pitch. She sealed it so that it became a boat where it could float. And she put baby Moses in that boat. And she covered it up. And she put it out there on the river.
Yes, sir.
And as God would have it, Moses' sister stood back watching to see what would happen. And as God would have it, Pharaoh's daughter came out to bathe herself. And when she came out, she saw the basket, had her servant to go fetch it. And when she brought it back, she opened the basket, and there Moses were crying.
All right, come on down.
She saw that baby crying, and she had compassion on that baby.
Yes, right.
She said that he was a beautiful boy, a goodly boy. So the suggestion arose, do you want me to go and fetch one of the Hebrew women so that she can nurse the baby? And she said, yes, go find one. And as God would have it, Moses' mother was brought to fetch that baby, to care for that baby, to nurse that baby. And so we see the love of a mother. Let's look briefly at her past. It's very important that a mother have faith in God. Listen to me, mother. It's very important that your roots is rooted in God.
You appreciate that.
Verse 1 says, a man of the house of Levi took a wife, a daughter of Levi. Moses' father was named Amram, and his mother was named Jochebed. And that tells me, since they come from the tribe of Levi, that they both was rooted in God's house. They both grew up in a family that had connection with God. Maybe there's somebody here today who did not grow up in a home who had a family connection with God. And maybe your father and mother never went to church. And maybe your father and mother never had a relationship with God. But thank God you're here today. You want to be an example for your children. You want to make sure that your children have a mother who have connection with God. And for those of us who had mothers and fathers who had a relationship with God, you ought to thank God this morning. You ought to thank God that God prepared a way so that life platform, life bottom, his foundation was laid for us. Let's look at her faith in the past, her faith in the past. We know that Levi was a tribe in which the priest came from, and the Levi came. And that simply means that Moses' father was a religious leader and a priest of Israel. Moses' mother was a woman of faith, being raised up in a home that honored the Lord. And when it came time to obey the king, Moses' mother choose to obey God rather than man. Every mother ought to realize that when it comes down to the laws of the land, we must be obedient to the laws of the land, except when it defile God's law. For it's always better to obey God than man. It's very important that we as father and mother understand that we should bring up our children in the Lord. The record says we are to nourish them. That word nourish simply means to train them by teaching them about God, both by instruction and example. God wants us as father, as mothers, to train your children, to nurse them by teaching them. But not only do you nurse them by teaching them, the word also simply means to instruct by discipline. You see, if you're going to really train your child, if you're going to really bring up your child in the nurture of the Lord, you must instruct them and you must discipline them. See, that's a part of teaching. That's a part of bringing them up. Not only do you instruct them, but you must train them through discipline. Now, you don't discipline them. You may not discipline them the first time. But after you teach them and show them their mistake and tell them why they shouldn't make that mistake and show them the consequences of those mistakes. And then they turn around and make that same mistake again. Then it's time to train them by discipline. The record says, teaches us that if you spat a rod, amen, you'll spoil the child. That's what it teaches us. It don't specifically said that, but that's what it teaches. And it said, put the rod on them and they won't die. Amen. They may act like they dying. They may holler and fall all out like they dying, but I promise you, they won't die. Yeah, we got to understand that Moses' mother was a mother of faith. She conceived. And she bore a son. Yes, sir. And this son was Moses. All right. She had faith from the past. But then she had faith in the present. The record says that in verse 3, that, and when she could no longer hide him, she took him and a bush, a bulrush, and dabbed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and laid him in it, and put it in the river branch. She had faith. She had not only faith in the past, but her faith had action for the present. She took Moses. As Moses grew, no longer being able to hide him from the Egyptian. She was trying to keep him quiet, but he just wouldn't be quiet. Tried to keep him hush, 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 boy, be quiet, but he kept on crying. You don't understand how it is. Sometimes we try to keep the child quiet and they don't be quiet. She could no longer hide him. And so now she said, I'm going to make him an ark. I'm going to make him a boat. I'm going to build a basket. And I'm going to make a boat and put him in. And let him go and turn it over to God. She understood that if she was going to save her child, she had one chance. And her one chance was to let him go and turn him over and trust God. She put him in a basket, laid it in the flag, hoping that Moses would be found by Pharaoh's daughter and be saved. She was hoping that he would be found and be saved, rescued, and kept alive. A mother would do all she can to keep her son alive. A mother would do all she can to keep her child alive. Moses was found by Pharaoh's daughter. She had compassion on him and saved him. When you read the record here, you can see the divine providence of God. We can see how God, through different avenues, worked in the life of Moses. Moses' mother let him go. Turn him over to God. She prayed. And God worked it out so that not only would Moses be saved, but Moses' mother would take care of him and get paid for it. Somebody said God works in mysterious ways. His wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps on the sea and right on every storm. God fixed it so that Moses was saved, and Moses' mother took care of him so that she could install in him the principles and laws that was installed in her. A real mother is one who listens to her heart and feel the pain of her children. No mother wants to lose her child. It came to pass that when she had to give up her child, she gave up her child. But she prayed to God, trusting that God would take care of it. Can I tell you, there come a time in life, mothers, you're going to have to let your child go. You can't always keep your child close. Come a time you're going to have to let him go. Brother, it's when it's time to go to school. I seen mothers. The time when your child to go to school. Amen. You in school. Amen. Sitting up in the classroom, not willing to let him go. I'm just going to stay here today and just watch and see how everything is. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. I seen mothers. It's hard for mothers to let him go. Daddy going to get him to go to work. Amen. Daddy going to go to work. Mama going to go and follow him to school. Matter of fact, a lot of times she'll take off and say, well, I don't want to put him on the bus. I'm going to take him to school. Let him go, let him go. When he get out of high school, graduate, let him go. Amen. When he get grown, let him go. There come a time when mothers, you're going to have to let him go. Come on now. She let him go. But she trusts God. And when you have trained up your child in a way that they should go, and when you have installed principle in him and done all you can, your only hope that you have is to trust God and the things that you put in. Mother faith will strengthen that child. So she let him go. As she let him go, notice what happened. Moses was rescued by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter took him in as her own child. And she raised him for 40 years in Egypt. As a matter of fact, if you really look at it, because of number one, his mother not willing to allow him to die, and what a tragedy it would have been if his mother would have allowed him to die. Because he was to be the future leader of the children of Israel. He was to deliver God's folks out of Egyptian bondage. What a tragedy it would have been if she would have allowed him to die. You don't know what your son's going to be. You don't know what your daughter's going to be. Don't make the decision for them. Let them live and trust God. And one day they may be a great leader, may be a president, may be a governor, may be a CEO of a great company, may be a gospel preacher. She let him go, she allowed him to live, and then let him go. And because of Pharaoh's daughter, Moses gotten some benefits that he would not have gotten if The situation had been where he could have lived and the king allowed him to live. If the king decree had not went out and he was allowed to live, he never would have been educated in the best schools of Egypt. He never would have grew up in the king palace. He was blessed and allowed to experience some things that under normal circumstances he never would have experienced.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Don't you see the hand of God working it all out?
Yes, sir.
God said this boy is going to be the man that's going to lead my folks out of Egypt. Because God foresees things. But I got to keep him alive, and I got to give him an education. I got to raise him up in a land where he's going to go back and bring my people out of. So I'm going to allow Pharaoh to raise Moses. God is doing his thing. And sometimes we need to just step back and let God do his thing. And sometimes for God to do his thing, God got to allow some storms to come up. He got to allow some difficult times to come. He got to allow some drastic things to happen and desperate times to come up. And through it all, God can and will work it out. He moves in mysterious ways. If things didn't happen in your life like it happened, you wouldn't be who you are now and wouldn't be where you are now. So I tell you, don't hold things. And Moses' mother had to let him go. And don't hold things. You can't hold Moses' mother at fault. She had to do what she had to do. And Pharaoh's daughter had to do what God put on her heart to do. And through it all, Moses grew up for 40 years in Egypt land, in the king palace. Well, don't you see the divine providence of God? Not by chance, not by accident, but divine providence. Just by chance? No. Divine providence. It was God's divine providence and God's divine design that Moses was born under the circumstance and the time when he was born. You see, Aaron was Moses' brother. Miriam was Moses' sister. They were older than him. They were born before all of this happened. But God said, no, I'm going to wait. Because the condition is too good right now for my son to be born in, because he's going to be a great leader. I need desperate situation to come up. Moses was born under this circumstance, and just so happened now, divine providence, God divine design, Moses born when he was born. His mother not willing to allow him to be killed, divine providence. Hide it and hid him for 3 months, divine providence. And then fix the basket that float and put him in there and put him on the river, divine providence. And then Pharaoh's daughter went out to bathe herself, divine providence. Saw the basket and had it fetched. And it was suggested, do you want me to go and find a Hebrew woman to nurse? Divine providence. And that woman happened to be Moses' mother, divine providence. And Moses' mother got paid for what she would have had to do free, divine providence. 40 years growing up in Pharaoh's house. The best of education, the best of everything. But one thing he never forgot. I got to let you go. One thing he never forgotten was what Mama told him. What Mama told him, linger near.
Come on now.
And Mama told him who he was. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house, but he knew he wasn't an Egyptian. He knew he was a Hebrew. Mama taught him that.
Yeah.
Mama taught him, boy, this is who you are. And you can't never try to be like other folks. Say amen if you can. Mama taught him who you were.
Yes, sir.
My mama taught me
Well, come on, Doc.
who I was.
All right.
A black man.
Yeah.
At the time, black boy.
Yeah.
Got nappy hair.
Yeah.
I used to want to get the straightening comb and straighten it out. Mama taught me, boy, hey man, that's just how, hey man, you gonna have kinky hair. Hey man, hey man, you're a black boy. Man, it taught me who I was. I grew up being able to appreciate who I was and how I looked. Being a young black boy, I'm gonna have a wide nose, I'm gonna have thick lips. That's just a part of growing up. Who you are. Don't never look down on who you are. Thank God for who you are. And be proud of who you are. And Moses never forgot who he was. He was in the palace, but didn't forget who he was. Went to the best of school, but didn't forget who he was. He could have enjoyed pleasure for a season, but he didn't forget who he was. Can I pause for a minute? Can I pause for a minute? Can I say something to you, black? I'm on YouTube. Can I say something to you, folks? Can I say something to y'all? Don't you never forget who you are. You may get an education, but don't forget who you are. You may get a job and make a lot of money, but don't forget who you are. You may buy the best of vehicle, but don't forget who you are. God may bless you to live in a fine home and wear fine clothes, but don't never forget who you are. And don't never forget who your people are. One day Moses walked out. He saw a Hebrew being unjustly mistreated. Something went over Moses. Because that person who was being mistreated was his brother. Not biological brother, but his soul brother. Amen. Of his own race. And something went over because you just can't see your people suffer.
Amen, Doc.
And don't have no kind of feeling. And when something is done to your folks, it's just like being done to you. Don't never think that you are exempt. Being profiled. Don't think you're being exempt just because you haven't been profiled yet. Don't think just because you hadn't been stopped for driving in the wrong neighborhood that you are exempt. Just because somebody else is shot and you haven't been shot for holding a telephone or cell phone, you are exempt. So Moses, something went over him. And that Hebrew that was being justly mistreated by that Egyptian, Moses killed him. Because that was his brother. You just can't sit by and see your own folks mistreated and do nothing. Now we all do different things and we all take a part in different ways, but we must do something. So Moses never forgot what his mama taught him, never forgot where he come from and who he was. And so he thought he could keep it hush-hush and continue to stay there. One day it was brought up because he began to try to judge between two of his own people, two of his brothers. His own race was arguing, it was fighting, and he tried to tell him, don't you do that. Don't you do that. And he said, well, who make you judge? Are you going to kill us? Like you did that Egyptian? Moses fled because he knew eventually the word would come to Pharaoh. So he fled. For 40 years he was in Egypt.
All right.
And for the next 40 years he was on the run.
All right. All right.
For his life.
All right.
Living on the backside of a mountain.
Well.
But he never forgot who he was and where he come from.
Come on down. Come on down.
He was on the run, but he knew who he was.
All right.
He was a fugitive, but he knew who he was. But because of his mother, because of her faith, and over there in Hebrew 11, you read about her faith. She's in the hall of faith, right before Moses.
Come on down.
One day God saw Moses. He saw a bush, and God began to work through that bush, and Moses saw that bush burning.
Yeah.
But was not burning up. Moses said, I'm going to turn aside and see why the bush is burning and it's not burning up. And God spoke to Moses and said, Moses, take off your shoes. For the ground you stand on is holy place. Moses, I got a job for you. Moses, you're 80 years old. Moses, I've been keeping you alive because I got a purpose for you. Moses, for 80 years, now you could have been dead 80 years ago. You could have been killed and buried or thrown in the Nile. But Moses, I've been watching over you. I've been keeping you. I've been protecting you because I got a purpose for you. I got a little happy because I realized that it's been God keeping me alive. I realized that I'm still here because God has a purpose for me. It's not by accident. It's divine providence. That car wreck could have took you out. That accident could have took you out. That sickness could have took you out. All the liquor you drunk could have took you out. And yes, out of all the weed you smoke, it could have took you out. And out of all those pills you popped, could have took you out. Let me look over this way. Let me stop looking over there. It could have took you out. Could have took you out. Out of all of the promiscuous ways we had, it could have took us out. But God watched over us. He protected us. And it's no accident that you here this morning. It's no accident you came to hear this lesson. I stopped by to tell you, God have a purpose for you. He got a purpose for you. And what we need to do is live within God's purpose. Many of us grew up with a godly mother and a godly father. And we got outside of God's will. But you're here this morning because God wants you to know He got a purpose for you. Moses, I kept you. 80 years, I kept you. Could have died at birth, been killed at birth, thrown in the Nile River. And when you killed the Egyptian, you could have been killed then. But I kept you alive. Moses, I want you to go down to Egypt land to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses became a great leader. All through the providence of God. Let me just back up for just a minute to give some of you some encouragement. Moses had a rough beginning. All the different things that happened that could have ended his life. But God ain't so much concerned about where you come from. God ain't concerned about how you start. God ain't concerned about your background and what family you come from and just that. God is concerned about now and the future. And He can take us from terrible past and terrible background and rough beginning and rough starts. And those of us who have strayed away and been on the run, He can take us and He can send us to do His will. I'm talking to somebody this morning.
Oh, yeah.
You've been like Moses. You've been on the run. You haven't been running for 40 years. Some of you have been running for 5 years, for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You've been on the run. Yes, you've been on the run. You haven't been as faithful to God as you should have. You haven't been as faithful to the church as you should have. You know what you need to do. You know what you should have done. But you've been on the run. But God is talking to you today. Telling you, I kept you alive. I kept you here because I got a purpose for you. If you hear this morning, it was a mother's love that took drastic and desperate, a desperate situation that came up where she had to take desperate measures.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, many times it's the women. When desperate situation come up, it's the women that take desperate measures. I wish I had time. I'd go and show you some incidents in the Bible, and then even just in life where most of the time it's the women who have to initiate the plan in action. Say what you will. She may have mentioned it and put the idea in your head, and now you think it's your idea, but amen, no. It was her. Amen. It was her. If you hear a mother's faith, she had a past, a present, which is the action, and then the benefit of the future. When you always have faith in God and do God's will, it pays off. It'll pay off. Moses, the great leader of God, ended up in the Hall of Fame, whose life could have been taken at birth, or even up to when he was 3 months old. But God kept him for a purpose. If you're here, and maybe you've been on the run. Now. When I said been on the run, Moses was on the run because he had committed murder, and he was a fugitive running from Pharaoh and what could have happened to him and would have happened. But you've been on the run because you know what God wants you to do. You know where you ought to be in life. You know where you ought to be spiritually. For the time you should be teachers, you have a need for others to teach you again. Some of you right here this morning, I'm talking to you this morning. I'm not looking at you. I'm talking to you, though. I'm looking down on the floor. You can't tell me I'm looking at you. But some of you right now, ought to be Sunday school teachers.
Amen.
Some of you right now ought to be workers in the church. Ought to be workers in the kitchen. Ought to be workers on program. Some of you right now, I ain't looking at you, but you know who I'm talking to. I don't know who I'm talking to, but you know. Ought to be great workers in the church.
Come on now.
But you've been running. And as a result, you know, many times I've seen folks run to the point they just avoid the preacher. I've seen folks they come to church. And before the benediction is given, they'll leave because they don't want to face the preacher. Because they know the preacher going to try to hold them accountable and try to get them to become more faithful and more active and involved in church. So instead of facing the preacher, they run.
Come on, Doc.
By the time I get to the back door, they gone. I see the car going. I missed them that time. But you're on the run. And you try to avoid certain folks, but when you know they're going to talk about God in the church, and even if mama going to talk about the church, or daddy going to talk about the church, and you being faithful, you try to avoid that conversation. You talk about something else. Because you're on the run. Stop running today. And let God speak to you. And let God lead you. so you can serve your purpose. And God do have a purpose for you. This Mother's Day, thank you, mothers.
Yes, Lord.
Thank God for you.
Amen.
And you may not be a biological mother,
Right.
but you've been a mother to nieces and nephews
Yes, sir. I know you.
and cousins. You've been there for them. You've been there to help take care of them. Thank God for you.
Thank God.
We thank God for every woman
Yes.
here today. And if you're here today, you're subject to the invitation. If you're not a member of the church, you can't fulfill your purpose. You can't really be all you want to be and need to be, and God wants you to be outside of His kingdom. You need to be in the church. You come out here and believe, repent, and confess, and being baptized. He adds you to His church. And live faithful. Live according to God's will. Let God speak to you. Let God lead you. And live up to your purpose. And there will be a reward of the future. Thank God. Thank God that God is keeping me alive.
Yes, Father.
You ought to thank God that God kept you alive and is keeping you alive. Because that child that died could have been me. That child that was aborted, it could have been that child that was killed in a car wreck could have been.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That child that got sick and died could have been.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But God kept you alive. He kept me alive. He's keeping us alive because of a purpose. And the least I can do is thank God and try to fulfill my purpose.